Initially, I was very low on confidence, but then I was speaking to a lot of people and I saw everyone was low on confidence. Have a plan and just stick to it.
Yes,
Be
yes.
consistent. Consistency will get you what you want. And I think when we start the revision for the exams, like, you should start with the subject that you're best at. That gives you confidence, right?
Hello everyone. I have with you CA Final AIR 15 Nandakishore. First of all, many congratulations Nandakishore for this fabulous achievement. And
Thank you.
how was your uh, how was your post result euphoria?
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Well, it's been 2 weeks right after the result, so the feeling has really sunk in.
Okay.
But if I can recall, yes, one of the best days I've had. Well, maybe not a day. The results came out 11 in the night, so maybe one of the best nights I had. And I we all imagine, right? I used to imagine these moments when results would come out, the people I would call, how I would celebrate. I used to imagine these moments 100 times when I was preparing. So it was finally very good to see to finally live those moments. I think I slept at 3 in the night that day. I slept at 3. Then I had to wake up at 6. After that, I couldn't sleep. So I slept for 3 hours that day.
Okay. Who did you make that first phone call to?
It was not a phone call, so I had not told my parents that results were coming out because
Is
my
it?
I didn't
Oh,
because my mother is a teacher, so she gets really excited about results, and she would kind of remind me a week before that 7 days to go, 6 days to go. I didn't want to go through that, so I didn't tell her. And she had already slept by 10:30, so I had to wake them up and tell them results had come out.
what are you saying? This is the first time I'm hearing something like this. Generally, parents would be the first people to be aware of. They would go to temples, pray for you. You managed to do it single-handedly then.
I had their praise with me. It's just
Of
that
course. Yeah.
uh, I wanted to give it a surprise too, which really worked out. They were really happy at that point.
That's really good.
My firstly, she was not understanding what I was saying. I told her I cleared. So she was just up from sleep. First, she asked me what. Then she came out of her senses. I had to tell her 3 times that results had come out.
That's great. That's great. And so I believe you have taken AFM and you scored a good 80, 82 plus, right? In
Yes,
AFM.
82. Yeah.
So, just run us through your broad strategy. What did you use for your AFM, and how does someone score 80 plus in a paper which had a lot of reverse working type of problems?
Yeah, the material, the resources that I used, it's solely your materials. Plus, for the theory part, I did refer the ICA material. So I did the subject in my second year of horticulture, and I also after studying the lectures, I also had one round of revision, solving all the questions.
Okay.
And my study leave started on 1st of June, and AFM is the subject that I took first because I was pretty confident about that. And I think when we start the revision for the exams, like, you should start with the subject that you're best at. That gives you confidence, right?
Okay.
So the conceptual part was very clear from your lectures. And for certain areas, particularly the new areas like derivatives, which was a new, in derivatives, there was a new concept introduced, right, in that particular May revision of the study material. So for those things, I referred your YouTube lectures. So for me, it was only your material, the lectures, and for those areas where I had to refer certain things, for those areas I was referring your YouTube lectures.
Okay.
And um, also, there were a lot of things. I used to watch a lot of your videos, particularly for certain tips. For example, you were asking to buy a different color highlighter and
Yeah.
mark things for the last round of revision, right? So a lot of things from your YouTube videos also, I was picking it up and doing such things so that I could manage.
Did you use different highlighters and highlight stuff?
Yeah, I did. And that helped a lot actually. So I think the main part about AFM is to do a lot of questions. So I used to highlight it, and I also used to have a kind of a tracker with all the tough questions, but unfortunately for the exam, it didn't really come. Uh,
Correct, correct.
so AFM was my best subject, the subject I was most confident about. But unfortunately, that was also my toughest subject. But surprisingly, I scored the highest for AFM as well.
Okay, okay. But
Uh,
this was a
yeah.
particularly slightly tricky paper, right? This time
Yes,
you did
correct.
not have direct questions. So, what
Yes.
was your first reaction seeing a paper where questions were not directly from whichever material you referred? What was your first reaction during the
I lost confidence, sir. So uh, when we prepare, prepare for the best, right? And we think we can do it. But I think when you actually get into the exam hall, it's better to be cautious. And I did that for FR. I didn't have too much of expectations. I knew things could be tricky, so I had to be ready for it. And FR went very well. But then for AFM, for some reason, I couldn't really do it because DT and audit are generally not scoring, and particularly if you are looking for a rank, AFM and IDT is where you score.
Hmm.
And I had studied everything for AFM. I was aiming nothing short of 100. That's the mindset I had when I got into the exam hall. Even the theory, I studied everything.
Okay.
But when I saw the question paper, that first question that you start with, it's so crucial. And for AFM, I couldn't find that particular question from the question paper. It's not that the exam was difficult, it was different from what had happened before. All those reverse working questions that we saw, it's not that the concepts weren't tested before, it's just that the question is structured in a different way. But since you're not used to it, and there were definitely more than one question which were reverse working, so in the exam hall, it really affected my confidence. uh, I was not just thinking about the exam, a lot of things were going in my mind which shouldn't have gone through my mind at that point.
Okay.
But uh, I think ICA was also a bit kind with some grace marks, so I got good results for AFM.
That's it. But then you picked up a question and then you started getting momentum, or the nervousness lasted for a.
It lasted for a while. I think the first question took me 5 marks question. It took me around 15-20 minutes. But the second or third question, I could pick it up. Then I could pick up speed.
Okay, okay. And you said that you were also aiming for a rank and you were also aiming 100 on 100. That's a very good aim to have. And what were the three consistent habits that you think you you kind of held on to which helped a lot in your general preparation?
I would say having confidence is very key. It's about having a right mindset, right? It's not just about studying. You also should have the confidence and just keep on going. Have the resilience. Also have a plan and be consistent with executing that plan. So I wouldn't say I've done anything special. It's the same thing that everyone does. I had the confidence, I had a plan, and I executed it so well.
Okay. And when you say you had a plan to revise how many times?
My plan was at least three, and if I could do four, I thought that would be so great. And in the end, I did four.
You managed to do four.
Yeah,
So how many months did you go for your study leave?
5 months. It started on 1st of June.
Okay. And did you finish all your subjects before your study leave?
I did, except costing and some parts of audit.
Okay. And so AFM, when you watched the lectures, and till the time you started in your study leave, did did you do AFM in that intermediate period while you were doing articleship?
Yeah, so I'm not someone who finished lectures much early in my articleship phase. So for me, most of the subjects were done in my second year of articleship. So AFM, I took it in May 23. My attempt was in November 24. It took me 3 months, 3 to 4 months to complete AFM. So I was done by around September. Then I took IDT. I studied IDT. But then again in December, I did one round of revision for AFM, solving all the questions. So
Okay.
my revision was in December, and the next round of revision for the exam was in first week of June. So there wasn't so much of a delay, and conceptually too, I was good at it. I also had some work exposure in AFM, and your lectures also were very helpful.
Mhm.
So I was very confident with AFM. I didn't really have any problem with revising.
And any particular chapters on AFM that you were dreading of?
Not really. I think Forex is something that people generally find difficult, but again, I had some exposure in my articleship in Forex with hedging and stuff. So it was very chill for me, AFM.
And any particular chapters that you loved studying and you could study more and more?
Forex.
Forex. Oh, that is a new.
Forex and derivatives I used to love.
Okay, generally people avoid that to the best extent possible. Okay. And did you do MCQ separately?
No, I didn't. I initially I wanted to, but
Hmm.
then I didn't really find the time to. I could have found, but I just was too lazy. I in the end I didn't. But I think it would be good to do at least what ICA has given.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's been just two attempts, right? So we can't really say from exactly where MCQs are going to come. If you see the MTPs of November 24, it was very different. The questions, there were a lot of questions from theory perspective, which was questioned, but for the exam, it was all practical.
Yeah, you had a lot of CDS and everything even in the MTPs, right?
Yeah, correct, correct.
Yeah, that was a shock for a lot of people.
The final question paper was very different from the MTP.
Correct, correct. So that is generally the case. I mean, a lot of times MTPs are way too simple, or a lot of times MTPs are just out of the box. But usually MTPs don't replicate in the same form in the exams, right? It's more for
Yeah,
the practice.
yeah. I
Okay,
think it's always better to, if you're preparing like a mock test, it's always better to rely on a past question paper than an MTP.
100%. So if a student who is listening and attempting for May 25, the November 24 paper would be a very good source, right? The exam paper would be a very good source for you to write and practice and see how it is more likely to come.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. And how was your overall journey? Did you face any self-doubt while you were preparing overall?
In my first year of articleship, yes. In my second year, I picked it up. Initially, I was very low on confidence, but then I was speaking to a lot of people and I saw everyone was low on confidence.
Okay. So
So
that helps. You should speak to people who are also equally low in
you
confidence.
shouldn't speak so much because you might have an easy mind and you might take it easy. Um, but then once I started studying properly, then confidence was building up. So when I used to speak to people were really asking me how I was so confident. So there's nothing what you can do to build confidence, I think, would be to solve the maximum number of questions, particularly for a subject like AFM. And when you go on to the second or third round of revision, when you know that, okay, this is something that you've already seen before, I can solve it, then that's something that would really help. So I think I had 5 months of study leave, 150 days. I was low on confidence only for 2 days. Those were the first 2 days I started studying audit. Although I worked in audit for 2 years in articleship, but the subject as such, initially I found it different.
Okay. Okay. And when we are, I mean, did you have other than that? Did you have any off days or any social media distractions?
I did. I used to use my phone for 1, 2 hours a day, even during my study leave. The month before exam also I used to.
Did you feel that inner guilt after you were using the phone for maybe a couple
Yeah,
of hours?
that was there.
Okay. And if you have to kind of note down and let's say prepare notes, did you go ahead and prepare separate notes for yourself or you
Not really. Um, I honestly haven't prepared short notes for any subject.
okay.
I largely relied on what was available in Telegram or what I could buy for short notes.
Hmm.
And I think when I was studying for Inter, it was very different, right? It was 2021. If we, let's say there was a subject called EIS, right? IT. So there were certain areas where I had doubts and I wanted to check online to see whether there were videos that could clarify those doubts. And at that point, the only sources that were available were the lectures of ICI. They had started it during COVID, but then it was a full length lecture, so you can't really find what you are trying to find. But I think right now, and when I was preparing for finals, a lot of things are available on YouTube, and particularly for FR, there are you can see faculties are solving and putting questions in YouTube. So there is a lot of content that's available, and make the most of it. I've relied on that a lot. For example, audit is some subject. Audit is a subject which you have to keep on revising. So the way I did it was that I started with AFM in first week of June, and I knew that for audit I had to keep revising. So what I used to do was I was alone at home. Both my parents were both working, so I was having lunch or sometimes breakfast also alone. So I just used to play the revision lectures on the TV and just used to listen to it.
Wow.
So when I actually started revising from the book, I've already watched the lectures on YouTube, right? So that won't, that one thing, since I'm watching it when I'm having breakfast or lunch, that's not costing me any time. Plus, when I actually start studying, I've already done it. So it doesn't really take me so much time to study from the book.
So binge watching is good as long as you know what you're binge watching.
Yeah, correct. My suggestions in YouTube was pretty nice because I was watching it on TV. If I'm watching it on phone, then it's very different.
Correct, correct, correct. So I understand you relied a lot on YouTube revisions even for FR and AFM, right?
Yeah, AFM not too much because I was wrong with the concept from your lectures. FR I had to rely a lot because that was the first subject I took. It took me 9 months to complete, but even then it was not really proper because I studied it from the perspective of having to work during articleship. So for FR, I largely relied on your revision lectures in YouTube, and also I did a self study.
Okay.
As in, what I did was that, let's say I'm going to study India's once run and today, then first I would watch a revision lecture of yours in YouTube. It won't be so long, right? Just to understand the concept. It might be certain small Indias might be 12 minutes, 15 minutes. The longer ones might be 1.5 hours.
Hmm.
So I just used to see the videos for the concept, then I used to revise. That's how I did it. So FR2, a large part of the credit goes to you, sir.
But you would do that in your first or second revision, right? At a later date, would you still go back to revision video?
Just first revision. FR, I
Only
did
first.
it only for the first revision. But for subject like audit, I was even doing it in the second and even third and fourth rounds of revision.
Okay, okay. And any other closing tips or suggestions that you would like to share with everyone listening?
Have a plan and just stick to it. Maybe one tip I can give, I think, would be this is something I did for Inter. So your exams are from 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And it's very likely that you might have to leave home by 12 o'clock in the afternoon on the day of exam. So one problem I faced during foundation was that I'm someone who used to have breakfast at 9:30 and lunch at 1:30. So what happened was, on the day of exam I had to have lunch at 11:30. Breakfast I still had at 9:30, and I couldn't really eat much for lunch because I was also worried about exam. So after foundation, this affected me. The day the exams were over, I was done. I was I was sick, something I couldn't wake up for one day. But for Inter, what I did was that the exam began on 1st of December. So 3 weeks before the exam, I changed my schedule to have breakfast early. I would have at 7:30, lunch at 11:30, and from 12 to 5:30, I wouldn't have anything except from water and maybe some snacks in between, which I could also have before entering the exam hall. So
Okay.
this is something you could also try. The point I'm trying to make is not you should do this. It's that there are a lot of small things also that you could do, which will ensure that you get what you want. So it's not just the big things. Also
The small,
take care
small
of the
things.
small things.
Yes,
Be
yes.
consistent. Consistency will get you what you want.
Yeah. Having a plan is easy. Sticking to the plan is more difficult.
Yeah, and it's you can't really stick to your plan always.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's very common.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
So,
Even um, I used to watch all these videos when I began to revise, and everyone used to say that you should have a plan, a written plan. So I had a written plan in the beginning, but I could never stick to it, as in it was
definitely.
very detailed. So in at that point, I changed it to a broader plan. I wouldn't write anything down. I made it flexible, so that I don't get stressed even if I can't really meet it. If it's very specific, if I can't meet one thing, then I used to get stressed.
Mm.
So uh, rely on a lot of YouTube too. As in, I think uh, even your planner, you could find videos in YouTube or in Telegram. How many days you have to revise for each subject in each rounds of revision. Those things are also available. So particularly when you're starting on your revision, I think watching a lot of YouTube videos on these things and also joining the Telegram channels would really help.
Okay.
Your even your PDF was also there, right, sir,
Yeah.
for FR and AFM. Those
Yeah.
are things that really helps.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Nandakishore, for all the time and all the guidance that you have given. I'll wish you all the very best, and I really hope that you kind of keep on being as confident as you are, as relaxed and calm as you are, and I wish you all the best for all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, sir. Pleasure to have met you.
Same here, same here.
Thank you.